Hi everyone, welcome back to our class in Creativity and Innovation. I'm Neil Fogarty. I'm going to be talking to you today about Chapter 6, about the next I in the 6 I's model. We're going to be taking a look at the I for invest. And the author takes this I, takes this chapter, and she divides this up in the same way that she's divided all the other chapters. And she starts off with an introduction. She then goes to the profile, where she talks about the strengths of in this case, an investor, about the weaknesses or challenges of an investor, and how to manage an investor, what to do, what not to do, what to say, what not to say. And then she goes to the skills of an investor, and then she finishes up with the mindset of investors. So that's what we're going to do today. So let's start off with the introduction. And then to the introduction, there's a couple of key points that she mentions. First, unlike the prior chapters, unlike the other I's that we've looked at, this I, when she talks about the word investor, she's talking about two different types of parties or two different types of investors. The one type of investor is the one that we would think of, I think, immediately. The other, not so much, but as you go through a chapter, you certainly see what she's trying to say here. The first type of an investor she's talking about is actually the person who makes an investment. You go to someone and sell stock or whatever in your company, and they invest. So that person who buys the stock and gives you money for it, that's certainly an investor. They give you money or some other type of resources, etc., to invest in your business. The other type of investor that she's going to talk about today is the person actually seeking the investment. I guess you could call them a seeker, and sometimes sometime in this lecture today, I'm probably going to call them a seeker as well. So we're looking at both investors and seekers here. She, in her chapter, calls them both basically investors. So as you read this chapter, one of the things you want to do is you want to keep in mind that sometimes when she uses the word investor, she's talking about one of these parties, and other times when she talks about an investor, she's talking about the other. It can be a little confusing, but when you start to read what she's talking about, it kind of fits once you recognize that there are two of these. Another thing that we want to take a look at is when she talks about the investment and what's someone investing. If you think about it, generally speaking, when we talk about investment, and for those of you who are business majors, we talk about investment, we're talking about money. Oh, someone's giving you some capital and this other, it's equity and all this other stuff like that. Well, that's certainly one type of investment, but there's other ways that people can invest in your business. What are some of the other things you might ask somebody to give to you to help you with regard to your business or something or whatever, help you with regard to your business? Certainly we'd like to have money, but there's other things we want too. We'd like their time. We'd like their information from them. Have you done this before? Can you tell us to turn left, turn right, or whatever? What's your network? Who can we contact? To help us out with this, etc. So we're looking at not just money, but we're looking at time and information, and probably some other type of resources too, with regard to that. So again, when you think of the word investor, we now want to think about two different parties, and when you think about the word investment or what's being invested, we're talking about at least three different things, other things as well. You might even look at it as they're investing some sort of resource, whether it's a financial resource, informational resource, time resource, or something else like that, as some sort of resource. Still in this introduction, another thing that she mentions here is she says, in this stage, in the stage for an invest, you really need to have courage. You really need to have courage, and it's actually both parties. Someone who's making an investment needs to have courage. Hey, I'm going to put this money in. Hopefully I'm going to get it back. There's some risk associated with it. But also someone who's a seeker needs to have courage. It's not easy to go up and ask somebody to give you something. Would you give me money? Would you give me time, information, whatever like that? In fact, another investment, just invest your passion, your enthusiasm, your support, and things like that. Yeah, it's not easy to ask people for that. So you need to have courage there as well. So one of the key things she talks about here is the concept of courage is so tied in with this concept of the I for invest. What we're basically looking at here is we're trying to get others to partner with us, to ally with us. And again, it's whether they give us money or resources, etc., help us out, give us some sort of support or whatever. we're asking them to kind of join with us and help us on our journey that we have here. So one of the key things too here when we talk about investment is you have to be able to come up with compelling reasons for at least two things or two parties. One, you have to have compelling reasons for you. Why should you invest in this idea, this business that you have? I mean, you might have, a family. You might have, commitments, student loans, etc. You might have other things. So why should you put your money? Why should you put your time, etc., your sweat equity into this? And then we also have to have compelling reasons to get others to join in with us. Hey, please help us out. This is what we're doing, etc. Other compelling reasons as well. So that's the first major topic that she talks about here. She's talking about this concept under the introduction for invest. Well, now let's go to the second major topic that she has, and that's the profile. Profile, in this case, the I is for invest, so we're looking at investors, profile of an investor. And again, as I go through this, she'll be talking about the profile of someone who's an investor as we think about it, or someone who's a seeker. And she starts off, as usual, she divides this by, what are the strengths of an investor, what are the weaknesses or challenges of an investor, and how do you manage and communicate with an investor. So let's start off with the strengths that she mentions. Someone who's going to be a good investor. You want to either are these things that you have if you're seeking investment, or you need people on your team, etc. with regard to it. One of the first strengths that she mentions here is being able to take complex information and both being able to make decisions based on it as well as being able to communicate about it. With regard to decisions, that goes to both types of investors, investor and a seeker, should I do this, etc. And with regard to being able to communicate, can I pull it all together? It's not just being the type of communication you need of informational communication. Certainly when you are talking with someone or even yourself, you want to have the facts, you want to have the information. But you also have to be skilled in another type of communication or another reason for communicating, and that's persuasive communication. Can I persuade somebody? Can I persuade myself with regard to it? So again, the first of these strengths is, being able to take all this complex information, put it together, organize it, etc., and then being able to communicate it both informationally as well as persuasively. Another of the strengths that she mentions here is a good investor is going to be pragmatic, and is not going to be emotional and particularly under stressful conditions. If you think about it, when we start to talk about investing things, whether we're investing money in something or we're asking someone to invest money or time or commitment, etc., it can be stressful, right? Go and ask your parents, for more money for school or whatever. Even though your parents, they want to support you, you've got a budget. And now you got to go and ask them, and so there's stress there. Think about going to a stranger and saying, "Hey, invest in my business." And also, if you are going to be doing that, back to you got to ask somebody that. You want to be pragmatic. You don't want to be emotional. You want to have enthusiasm, etc., but you don't want to be emotional about it. And the same with regard to someone who's making the investment. They want to be pragmatic. They don't want to do this based on emotion. They want to do it based on facts and rationale. I mean, if you think about it, one of the TV shows that involves a lot of investment, both from seekers as well as investors, is the TV show Shark Tank, etc. Well, take a look at Shark Tank and look particularly at this particular case. Look at the sharks. Do you really see them making investments based on emotion, or do they make investments based on the facts that they get? Now, sometimes they get enthusiastic about a project or whatever we have, but generally speaking, they're looking at, they're very pragmatic. They're not getting, emotional to this. And the people making the pitch, I really want this, etc. But generally speaking, they're more professional. Occasionally, I've seen people on Shark Tank where they start to cry or whatever. Sometimes I actually wonder, are those what do they call them, alligator tears or crocodile tears or something like that? Are they just crying because they think that's going to help to get the investment or whatever? But again, strength is to be pragmatic. Another couple of strengths that she mentions here, and this is being able to judge when and where to allocate your time and money and people and other resources. Particularly if you're an investor and going to invest in somebody, when do I do it? How much do I do it? What do I do? But even with yourself, are you able to judge, how much you're going to invest and when you're going to invest and all those other things like that. Another strength that she mentions here is being able to influence people in organizations, particularly to support your idea, to create partnerships with you and join in with this. So another strength is being able to influence people, again, being persuasive, something we mentioned earlier. And then the final strength that she mentions is one that she started off with, and she really thinks this is important, and I do too. She says another strength is having the courage. In many cases, the courage to follow hunches and to take risks, etc. Whether you're investing money in something or you're seeking money, etc., you don't have all the facts. You really wish you did. You wish you had a crystal ball that told you everything that's going to happen, but there's no such thing. At least most of us don't have that crystal ball. I know that I certainly don't have a crystal ball. So in making these decisions to either invest or as you're trying to seek people to invest, you basically have to go on what you have. You have to make a hunch. You have to take some risks here, etc. So those are some of the strengths that she mentioned. So let's flip the page. In fact, I'm going to flip my notes here, and let's take a look at some of the weaknesses or the challenges that she mentions with regard to an investor. And one of the first things she mentions here with regard to a weakness or challenge of investors, I think this goes primarily to the investor who's putting in the money or the resources or whatever. It might also go to you as a seeker, but primarily I think it's more with regard to the person putting in the resources, the sharks, so to speak. If you think about it, if you put together a business plan for this business that you're creating, I've got this great new idea, whatever, you put together a business plan. And let's say that besides looking for an investment where someone puts in some money, some sort of equity or whatever into it, let's say you just go to a bank and you're getting, asking for a loan from a bank. I mean, in a sense, the bank is investing in you, although it's debt and not equity, and people argue about that. But in a sense, they're investing in you, right? So you put together this really good business plan, and it talks about the management structure and the product you have and the market you have, etc. And certainly one of the sections in there is going to be the financial section. What do you have now? What are you going to have? Where's it going to grow? The balance sheet, profit and loss, cash flow, and all those other type of things that you have. So you take it to the bank, right? And you have this business plan, and hopefully it's not really, really thick. But with all the various things that you can add to it, all the statements and everything, probably about this thick, right? You go to it and you hand it to the bank. What do you think the banker's going to do? Banker's going to flip right back to the financial part and is going to spend most of the time looking at financials. So one of the things that we tend to see with regard to investors, and you might find this too with regard to someone who is investing for the equity purpose or whatever, is they really focus a lot on quantifiable information. Oftentimes these people are involved in finance or accounting or something like that. And if you think about people who are in finance, accounting, or if you know people at school, you have some friends who are engineers or whatever, they focus on the numbers. Understand, that's great. Numbers are very important with regard to it. So what you tend to find is oftentimes as a weakness, though, of an investor, so they focus too much on the quantifiable information. They focus too much on the numbers. Are there things outside of the numbers that also are going to impact the likelihood of success of your venture? How about the team that you put together? The intelligence of the team. How do I quantify that? How about the relationship and the dynamics of those on your team? Do you have a good fit, as a synergistic type of fit? Are we creating value? How do I put a number value on the team that you put together? And so many other things too that you really can't put a number on it. And if you're looking at making a judgment based only on the numbers, that certainly can be a weakness that you have as an investor. So one of the weaknesses, again, just looking at quantifiable information and not recognizing that quality type of information, information about things that can't be put into numbers is also really, really important under this. Let's go to the second weakness that she mentions here. This is another interesting one. Some people who are investors are just too stingy. They don't want to give up the money. Now, sometimes it's you. I don't want to invest my own money. My own money and my own time. I got other things to do. I'm not going to do it. But that's probably less likely. I mean, if it's your idea, you're probably enthusiastic and passionate about it, so you're probably not overly stingy. You still might be conservative about it, but not necessarily overly stingy. But then when you go to other people, hey, would you like to put in some money or whatever? Some are just really stingy. They basically don't want to, help anybody, frankly, except for themselves. And I think to some degree you might see this with regard to people who are VCs, etc. They're looking at the return, right? They want a huge return, 30% or whatever return or whatever on that, and they're very stingy. I'm not going to give out some money. So another downside is some people just are really really stingy. Well, if you don't invest, if you have money to invest but you don't invest, how good of an investor are you? Well, probably not very good because you're not investing, etc. A third weakness that she mentions here is sometimes investors, as well as seekers, just become overwhelmed by so many facts. Oh my God, look at what's going on. Particularly you as a seeker, you're trying to pull this together or whatever, and you want to make a business plan, make a presentation, all this other stuff. Sometimes you get overwhelmed. It's your facts, etc., but even you get overwhelmed. So many people who start a business, they're not the accountants and financiers. They are the engineers. They are the people who majored in English or history or maybe management, but they're just not used to all these different numbers and facts, etc. When you go to start your own business. I was talking to one of my students the other day, a young lady who's got a really great idea for a business, and she's really smart. She's working with a couple of different groups like we have at Penn State something called the Happy Valley Launchbox. Well, it's called the Launchbox, and it's at all the different campuses that we have. And the main campus here for Penn State is located in State College. They call it University Park, where the campus is located. But we're also in this area between three different mountains. And this area, this valley, has been known as Happy Valley, so they call it the Happy Valley Launchbox that we have here. So she's working with them too. But it's interesting. She admits, I've never done this before. I've got this idea. I think it's a really good idea. But holy cow, as she's going on, she's just saying how overwhelming it can be. And it is. I don't know anyone who's an entrepreneur who doesn't get overwhelmed at times. And all the different balls that are in the air that you got to juggle and things you didn't even know you got to juggle, etc. So it can be overwhelming. There can be just too many facts. And if you're someone who's making an investment, that can be the case too. There's just too many facts. How can I balance all these facts and make sense out of it to determine whether or not I want to make the investment? It can be very difficult. And then the last point that she mentions here as a weakness, as a challenge, is she says sometimes you can become a bottleneck and basically be your own worst enemy. You can become the bottleneck and be your own worst enemy. With regard to some investors, as well as some seekers, but some investors who are putting in some money, they follow a decision-making style that is known as, and here's a buzz phrase for you, the wait and see decision-making style. Wait and see. Some people, instead of writing the word and, will put an apostrophe and an N and call it wait and see. I mean, it's up to you how you want to do it. People who follow wait and see decision-making style, they don't want to make a decision. They want to wait and see. They want all the facts to fall in line, etc. Now, most of the time, it's a good idea. You want to have at least some of the facts, right? And, you get to the point, the more facts you get, hopefully the better decision you want. But at some point, if you're just waiting for all the facts to come in, you're never going to get all the facts. And it's going to take a long time to get even a lot of the facts. And if you think about this, opportunity is a moving target. And if you keep waiting and waiting until all the facts show up and everything proves itself or whatever, the opportunity to look really good today is going to be gone next week, next month, 3 months, a year, whenever, until you get all the facts together. So one of the problems is, that people wait and see. You're a bottleneck. You're keeping everything from going forward because you want to have all the facts, and that's understandable. But in life, you never have all the facts, and particularly when you talk about entrepreneurship and investment and stuff like that. So whether you want to put money into a business that you think you're going to have, you're never going to have all the facts to tell you, yep, you're going to make money. Whether you're investing in somebody else's business, you're never going to have all the facts to tell you this is going to be a great deal. So what you can find is you just wait too long the opportunity dissipates, it disappears, it fades away, and there you go. You're not really a good investor, and therefore there's a weakness or a challenge of investors. So still in the profile now, profile of investor, we've now looked at two of the main topics that she talks about. When she talks in a profile, she wants to talk about the strengths of investor. When she talks about a profile, she also talks about the weaknesses or challenges of investor. The third and final area under the profile that she goes to is how do we communicate with, how do we manage investors? What are the do's, what are the don'ts? What should I say, what should I do, what should I not say, what should I not do, etc. And she has a fairly extensive list of these things. So, in fact, everything that I'm saying in this is just taking bits and pieces of what she has in the book. Certainly read what she has in the book. But let's take a look at some of these things. And we're going to focus, because I can make this lecture, 3 hours long if I look at everything. So with regard to the do's and don'ts now, I'm pretty much going to be talking about the seekers. You're seeking funds, etc. on that. But in her book, she also talks about the do's and the don'ts with regard to the investors, the people putting in the money. But let's start off with the do's with regard to seekers. One of the things she says is you want to be down to earth, pragmatic, and realistic. Listen, it's this idea that you have, it's unique. Hopefully nobody else has really ever done it before. You're going, like in a Star Trek thing to where no person's ever gone before or whatever. So as you're doing that, you have to be realistic, you have to be down to earth, and you have to be pragmatic. Another do is, she said, you certainly want to put together a business plan, have a model, etc., for your business or whatever. Some investors who you go to and you're seeking funds from or seeking time and help or whatever, some don't care. They just really want to help you out. That's the way they're built. Some, they won't do a thing until they see a business plan. So you should put together a business plan, have this business model. And I want to add something with regard to that. This concept of the business plan, business model, you probably want to write down, right? I heard a statement a couple of years ago, and it makes an awful lot of sense. Somebody said that a plan is worthless, but planning is indispensable. A plan is worthless, but planning is indispensable. And the concept was, well, the plan that you put together, as soon as the ink dries, in fact, even before it dries, the plan might be out of date. And you're constantly going to have to go back and change it and add things and fill in gaps or whatever. So the person's saying a plan, is basically worthless. I'm not so sure I go that far. But the other aspect of it, though, I really believe in as well, planning is indispensable. Planning is indispensable. As you start to sit down and plan, you start to write this plan up and you start putting things together. It's amazing as you start to put pen to paper or type it on the computer or whatever, you're going to start to see gaps in your thinking. You're also going to see things that are linked that you didn't see before because it's just in your head and thoughts going back and forth. As soon as you start to write it down, all of a sudden you start to see how it really starts to pull together or not. And as I say, you see some gaps or whatever. You might see some other linkages or whatever. It can really help. So again, another do is put together that business plan, that business model that you have. Another of the do's that she has here, and this is a very key thing that you want to do as a seeker, and that is you want to show that your idea fills a customer or market need. Fills a customer or market need. You're not selling to yourself. You might have come up with the greatest thing for your life. Oh my gosh, look at this, that, and the other. And you're making an assumption everybody else feels this way. Everybody else is going to want this way. No, it doesn't. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that whatever idea that you have, whatever business you're going forward with, that it fills a customer or market need. Don't create something that nobody else needs and then go out and try to generate a need for it. Some people do it and they do it very well, but most people don't. Find out what people really need, find out what the market needs, other businesses need, whatever, find out what the industry needs, and then what you're going to do is come up with your idea, come up with your business, etc. And as you're doing this, you want to be able to show others how it fills a need. Here's the need, here's how I fill it, here's the problem, here's how I solve it. Another of the do's that she mentions here, and this goes back to the word she said earlier, you want to be courageous and bold. You want to be courageous and bold. You want to be passionate and confident in this. Think about this. Don't you think confidence has something to do with this? And, your passion in it. The road ahead for anybody, the road that you've been on so far, that you're on now and you're going in the future, the road is not smooth. It's not, all downhill, etc. There are all sorts of problems that arise in life. And these are problems that are also going to arise in an entrepreneurial venture, some new creative idea that you have, whatever. So what's going to carry you through all the tough times? And it's not just going to be one or another. It's going to be tons of tough times that happen. And some of the holes in the road or whatever, bumps in the road are going to be huge. What's going to get you through it? Well, you better be, first off, be courageous and bold, but you better be passionate about things, and you also should be confident about it. So that was another of the do's. Another do that she has is you should be a good communicator, and that you should then communicate your plan very well. Basically, not only to communicate, as I said earlier, the facts and the information, but you want to communicate, those other variables, your confidence, your passion, the non-quantifiable stuff. You want to be able to communicate that. You want to be able to communicate it well. You could have a tremendous business, but if you can't communicate it, you have a tremendous idea, but if you can't communicate it, it's going to be very difficult for you as you're seeking investors to get them to jump in. They're looking at how well can you communicate that idea. Another do that you want to come up with as a seeker is try to show how you can minimize risk. There's always going to be risk. There's no way you can go through life without risk, and particularly in entrepreneurial ventures, there's always going to be risk. But are there any things that you can do to help minimize this risk? What can we do to reduce the exposure of the person you're seeking the investment from? And then the last of the do's that she mentions as a seeker is to, again, show that you can make this thing work, that you can do this. I've got this idea, etc., and I know this idea is good, but not only do I know it can do, but I can implement it. If you think about it, the true value of any idea that you come up with is usually not the idea itself, it's usually the implementation, doing something with that idea, turning it from an idea up here into reality, turning it from a thought to action or whatever. So another thing you want to be able to do is show that indeed you can do this. You can make your idea work. You can implement your idea. You can put it into action. So those are the do's that she mentions. Let's take a look at the don'ts that she mentions here. And again, this is don'ts as a seeker. One of the suggestions she has, and it goes to a saying you probably have heard of before, you don't want to oversell and underdeliver. You don't want to oversell and underdeliver. Have you ever bought something off the internet? You're looking at somebody's webpage or whatever, and there's something that sounds, oh, this is really good, I really want this, etc. And you buy it, and it gets shipped to your house, and you open up the box, and what? This isn't what I thought I was getting. It doesn't work. It's not the right size. It's the color and the website or whatever isn't the color that I got. Whatever it might be, think about that. Are you going to go back and buy more from that seller? Probably not. So one of the things you want to be careful about is that you don't overinflate your assumptions or have unrealistic expectations as you're going to these, as you're seeking the investments, or you're going to these other investors that you have. Related to that, a second don't she has is kind of related to another saying, not as popular or used as frequently, but is there are people out in the world that you don't want to be. These are people who are, quote, never in doubt but never right. Never in doubt but never right. They're the ones who, they're super confident and they're always right and etc. And oftentimes, well, they're not. And if you think about this, if all you're doing is relying on your enthusiasm at the expense of your plan, you've got a problem. There's an old saying here that hope is not a strategy. That Vince Lombardi from the Green Bay Packers said that, etc. What you want to be careful about is this concept of overconfidence and overselling that we mentioned before. Let's go to the third point that she mentions here. She said, don't have an untested or vague proposition. Don't have an untested or vague proposition. Test it out, whether it's testing in a model way, testing it virtually on a computer, or whatever, testing it out with, some market research and, surveys and have people try it or whatever. Don't have an untested proposition. Don't have a vague proposition. Oh, it's big. What's big? The word big is vague. Big to an elephant is going to be different than big to a mouse. And, what's big? So you want to be careful about that. And then the final don't that she mentions is don't think that you can do this alone. Even if the business you form, you're the only owner, you're a sole proprietor, or the sole shareholder, or the sole member of the LLC, or whatever it might be, don't think that you can do this alone. You're going to need assistance. You're going to need to have a team. It can include, you're probably going to need an attorney, you're probably going to need an accountant or bookkeeper, etc. But there's probably other people too that are going to be involved, even if you're doing this on your own. So you need to have this team. Don't think that you can do this alone. Reach out. And I mentioned earlier this thing that we have at Penn State called the Launch Box, which provides free entrepreneurial assistance, not just to students, but really to any entrepreneur. And there are all sorts of organizations and groups that do that. There's a thing called the Small Business Development Center, SBDC, throughout the United States you can go to get free assistance. And there's just other sources of free assistance. The Small Business Administration, the SBA. There's another group that's part of the SBA or funded by it called SCORE, all capital letters, SCORE. That stands for Service Corps of Retired Executives, Service Corps of Retired Executives. These are people who have been in the business for a long time. They ended up retiring. They have a lot of time on their hands. They have a lot of information and experience they can share. So they volunteer to share their experience with you. They become a mentor for you, become an advisor for you, and it's free. So again, don't think you can do this alone. You're going to need others, including you're probably going to need your family to support you on this. Friends, you're going to need employees perhaps along the way. You're going to need suppliers that are going to work with you, etc. And of course, you're going to need customers. So again, don't think you can do this alone. So that finishes up the do's and the don'ts that she mentions here. But I also want to mention something here that might, I think, be helpful as well. You might have heard of a movie called The Wolf of Wall Street. The Wolf of Wall Street. There are two scenes in The Wolf of Wall Street that I suggest that you take a look at. First, let me put a slide up for you, and then it's going to have a link for you, and then let me talk about that. So let me put this slide up for you. The slide you see shows the Wolf of Wall Street logo for the movie. It's a great movie, by the way. If you haven't seen it, you probably want to go out and buy the DVD or pay for it on pay-per-view or Netflix or whatever you want. But it's a great movie. But there's actually two scenes in this that are related to what I'm talking about here with regard to the do's and the don'ts of a seeker. And those two scenes are related to a rather famous or maybe infamous comment in the movie called "Sell Me This Pen." Sell me this pen. And there are two scenes in the movie where you see the main actor ask somebody on there, "Sell me this pen." And then the person in the first scene is at lunch or whatever and actually does sell the pen. And then the second scene, there are three people in an audience that he asks them to sell me this pen, and they do a horrible job. Well, you can see there's a link there to a YouTube video that actually has both these scenes. You should probably watch it because this little video clip, I think the whole thing is 2 minutes long or something like that. It's hardly anything. This little video clip gives you a pretty good idea of some things to do and not to do, or say and not to say, if you're a seeker and you're trying to get somebody to invest. Now, they're trying to, quote, sell a pen, so they're trying to get somebody to buy something, etc. But isn't that what you're doing when you're seeking an investment from somebody? Buy into my idea, support my idea, come join me, etc. Buy me, buy this company, buy this idea. So you might want to watch those two video clips and see the person who did a good job, what did he do there? What did he say, etc.? The three guys who did a bad job, what did they do? What did they say? And look at not just the words they use, but look at their persona, their aura, so to speak. I think that also will help you on that. So that finishes up the second major topic, and that second major topic was the profile. Let's go to the third major topic. The third major topic, the skills of an investor. Now, as you know, we've already have talked about a lot of the skills of investors. We're talking about the strengths and the weaknesses and what to do and not to do, etc. So I'm not going to go through and be redundant. And she mentions in this chapter some of the things that we've already covered. I'm not going to do that, but I do want to point out particularly one skill that she mentions in this that really wasn't mentioned earlier. If you think about this, if you start a business and you have this great idea, this creative and innovative idea, and you start this business or whatever, and you try to figure out how to be a good seeker in this. If you're not the only one in the business, again, you're not doing it alone, wouldn't it be nice if some of the other people who are on your team also were good at selling your business, also were good at being seekers, or she says investors, or seeking investment? So another skill, she says, of a good investor, particularly in this case a seeker, is being able to teach others on your team how to be a good seeker. Now, if you're talking about the investor part and you have a team who are making investments, it's probably a good skill there to be able to teach them as well how how do we do this? How are you a good investor? How do you make investments? How do you judge what to invest in, how much and when, and things like that? So another skill is actually being able to teach your teammates, your colleagues, etc., that you have how to be good investors or seekers on this. And an example that I give in class is, I'm not sure if you've ever watched the TV show The Office. In that TV show, it was on for years. It was highly rated, etc. Watched, a lot of people watched it, etc. It's no longer on, but one of the main characters in that show was a fellow by the name, or at least the character's name, was Dwight. And Dwight had a couple of different roles in the show as it went on over the years, but his main role throughout the entire time was he was a salesperson, one of the key salespeople there. In one episode, we see a new person joining the team, a new person coming into the office, and this character's name was Ryan. And Ryan eventually gets put on the sales team. He's going to start to sell. So what we see is Dwight takes Ryan out to try to teach him how to sell. And he takes him to make customer calls and whatever. Now, in the episode itself, Dwight's kind of a jerk type of person, so he does some things to kind of put down and hurt Ryan. But the general gist of this is, why does he take Ryan with him on these sales calls? What's related to this? He's trying to teach him how to sell something. He's trying to teach him how to be a seeker. So that same skill that we saw Dwight have, although done kind of poorly and of course in a humorous sense on The Office, is something that you probably want to have too as one of the skills of being an investor or a seeker. Well, let's go to the final topic then for today. Again, keep in mind she talks about an introduction, she talks about the profile, she talks about skills. The fourth and a final topic that she has is mindset. And here's the mindset for the invest mindset, or the mindset of an investor. And mindset, as you know, has to be extremely important when we're talking about your success or lack thereof as an investor, as a seeker, your mindset. She mentions a couple things about mindset that you want to take a look at. First, she says there are two mindsets that she thinks easily are related to being a good investor. Again, whether you're a seeker or whether you're the investor type. And these are courage and confidence. And I think you can see, we talked about both courage and confidence already. And I think you can see how that type of mindset is important for someone who's seeking an investment or who is making the investment. But she also says a couple of other things. The next thing she mentions here, she says that part of the mindset of being an investor is that, and this can be both a seeker as well as a person making an investment, is knowing that victory and success often come after walking a path with dead ends and disasters. Victory and success often come after walking a path of dead ends and disasters. There you go. That's the road I want to be on, dead ends and disasters. But if you think about it, lots of paths that we've taken in life have become dead ends. They haven't led us where we want, and they've had all sorts of problems. I'm not so sure they're always disasters or whatever, but they had all sorts of problems. So I guess part of the mindset is indeed knowing that that's going to happen, and I don't care. I'm still going to go ahead. I know there's going to be dead ends and disasters, but I still want to try this because the next road, the last 3 roads all were dead ends and disasters, but by God, I'm going to make sure this next road is going to be a road to success for me with regard to it. Related to this, part of the mindset is you have to recognize that in order to get a yes, you usually have to suffer through a lot of no's. In order to get a yes, you usually have to have a lot of no's. So that makes sense too. I mean, think about this. For example, most of the students that I teach at Penn State, most of them are seniors, and they're about to graduate. In a couple at the end of the term or at the end of the next term, they're about to graduate. So they're sending out resumes and they're applying on websites and they're going to job fairs or whatever. Now some of those students, they got a job like that. They interned for somebody last year and they were offered a job. They didn't have to go out and really apply anywhere, although maybe they did apply for a number of internships. But I think most of the students are sending out, multiple, applications for jobs, or at least to get an interview. And are they getting nothing but yeses? Of course not. Some might, but most are getting quite a few no's. No, we don't want you to know you. And of course, when you get the rejection letter, they never tell you why. Oh, you parted your hair the wrong way, or you wore green and we don't like green, or whatever. They usually just, thanks for applying. You decided to go another way. Godspeed. In the future. See you later. And of course, you get the letter, and you're heartbroken, you're mad, and you're ready to tell them to kiss a certain body part or whatever, because you thought, I had all the credentials, and maybe the interview went really well. How did this happen? And you don't tell me. But what you tend to find is most of us, before we get a job, and particularly as we're a student and we're applying for it, most of us get a lot of rejections before we get a yes. So again, part of the mindset is recognizing that yeses only come after, suffering through a lot of no's on that. So also then, if you think about, let's take this dead ends and disasters and yeses and no's or whatever. Also, if you think about it, then probably part of the mindset of an investor, again, whether a seeker or someone who's making investments, this investment going to pay back or whatever, is resiliency. I'm going, okay, the last one didn't work, but I'm going to get right back up, and I'm going to get this next one. I got no, or I had disaster, dead end, or whatever. But the next one, I'm going to get on the horse, and I'm going to keep on riding, is resiliency. And let me give you one more point here related to this part about resiliency. I think that we've said this before, and I know that my students have run into it in various lab exercises, hands-on exercises that we have in class. Let me first show you another video clip. And again, kind of like with the Wolf of Wall Street, I can't put the video clips on here, for copyright reasons, but I can put a link. So let me put up another slide that's going to have a link, and let me talk a little bit about this slide as well. That slide is referencing to, or is related to another great movie, kind of like we talked earlier, Wolf of Wall Street, or the TV show Office. It's related to a movie called The Pirates of Silicon Valley. The Pirates of Silicon Valley, which generally was about how Steve Jobs started Apple and how Bill Gates started Microsoft, and then the interaction between the two, or at least early on. Really, really good movie. There's a scene in that movie, and you see a picture of the character playing Steve Jobs with 2 executives from Apple on either side, and there's a link to that scene. And in that scene, we see the character Steve Jobs saying something that is very applicable to why you get no's and the dead ends and disasters or whatever. And he says that creation is messy. Creation is messy. You want genius, you get madness. They're two sides of the same coin. Creation is messy. You want genius, you get madness. They're two sides of the same coin. And what he's saying there is something that we talk about in my classes, and if you're thinking about creativity and innovation. If you're creative, if you're innovative, that means you're thinking outside the box. You're not doing the same old, same old. You're not doing what everybody else is doing. When you first come up with that creative idea, something nobody else is doing, most people will look at you and think you're crazy. You're mad as a hatter. What did you think of that? Are you nuts? No, that's not how we do things here. We've always done it this way. However, with regard to that crazy idea that you have, that mad idea that you have, that idea that's so unique, it doesn't fit what we've always done, so it can't be right. If you're able to make it work, if you're able to show that it works and actually make it work, people will later turn around and not say you were crazy. They'll say, what a genius. Oh my gosh, you came up with that. What a genius you are. Let me give you an example of this. Back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and early 70s, if I wanted a glass of water, I'd go into the kitchen and I'd turn on the faucet and I'd put a cup under there and I'd get the water, shut it off, and I'd drink it. And the water was free, and it was available, at least here in the United States, like that. There's no problem. And along came somebody, sometime I think in the mid-70s or whatever, and said, you know what, I'm going to sell water. I'm going to put water in little plastic bottles, and I'm going to sell it like, they sell, soda pop or whatever. And most people looked at that and said, are you crazy? Who the hell's going to pay for water? It's free. I get it out of the tap. Why would I go to a store and buy water, etc.? And of course, that person turned out to be a billionaire coming up with that idea. And initially, we looked at that person, you're crazy. But then after the person became rich and the idea was successful, we thought, what a genius. Well, if you think about it, most of the ideas that you're coming up with, the creative ideas, the innovative ideas that you're coming up with, they're new, they're outside the box, and people initially are all going to think you're crazy. So what are they going to do? They're going to say no. It's a disaster. This is a dead end. You can't go any further. So if you have a mindset of, I know that's going to happen, but to heck with it, I'm resilient, I'm confident, I'm courageous, I'm going to plow through. And maybe the last 10 people said I'm nuts, but maybe that 11th person is going to be the one that's going to say it's a great idea and invest in my business and we're going to become successful, etc. on it. So that's part of the mindset too. The final thing I want to mention under this invest mindset is I want you to take a look in your textbook at the bottom of page 129 and at the top of page 130. Your author, in talking about pioneers, etc., talks about someone by the name of Poor John. Poor John. And I'd like you to take a look at that and read through it. What are we talking about in Poor John? And this is related to this concept here about genius and madness and roads to disasters or whatever. In that story about Poor John, for those of you who are watching the video but don't have access to the book, let me tell you just generally what it's about. It's a standard story. Somebody goes out, in this case named John, has an idea, a unique idea, creative, innovative idea for a new business or whatever, goes out and starts this business with this great idea, this innovative idea, and everybody else is looking at this person saying, what a clown, John's nuts. And in most cases, most entrepreneurial ventures don't succeed. I think someone said the other day, I had a guest speaker in my class, that the average success rate is something like, 25%. I think that even might be high, depending on, the business and the timing and what you're doing or whatever. So most don't succeed. So in this particular case, John, whatever his idea was, again, you want to read this, didn't work. It didn't succeed. He tried, but it didn't work, and he failed. And the person talking about poor John, a neighbor or whatever down the street, said, "Oh, poor John, he's crazy. The idea that he had, I knew it would never work, and look, it failed." And the world is filled with these poor John stories or poor Jane stories or whatever, because so many of these ventures don't work. But that's part of the invest mindset. In order to find success, you usually have to have these pitfalls, these dead ends and disasters, all these no's before you get a yes. You have to be looked upon as being mad, before you're a genius. But keep endeavoring, keep coming up with creative and innovative ideas. Sooner or later, some of these things are going to work, some of these things are going to hit, and you're not going to be looked upon as being mad. I'd be looked upon as poor John. You're going to be looked upon as being a genius. And my goodness, look, John is so successful right now. I knew it would always work on that. Well, that finishes up the lecture that I have for you under the I for Invest under Chapter 6. If you have any questions about it, certainly let me know. I hope that it helped to give you some perspective on your journey here through creativity and innovation. But if you have any questions, certainly let me know. Otherwise, I hope you have a good evening coming up, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.